All right, guys, welcome back to A Journey to One Bitcoin, where I sit with you every single week and we stack Bitcoin together. Guys, today I wanted to do a video on the power of compounding and what Bitcoin or what your bank account could look like 10, 15, 30 years from now, allocating a certain amount of money towards Bitcoin every single week, right? So we're going to look at a few different scenarios, but I thought it would be cool for you guys to see the potential of Bitcoin over time. And that's the importance of my weekly videos when we do the stacking, is to show you guys, hey, if you stack and you stay consistent, this could really snowball into something incredible. So I wanted to actually lay it out for you guys in a really simple format so you can see what a weekly investment would look like. And again, I'll play with different numbers, but what a weekly investment would look like over a span of 10, 15, 20 years. So you guys can see the appreciation on it based on Bitcoin's average annual growth rate, right? So we'll take a look at a few different examples, but this is really cool because it is impressive what Bitcoin can do if it continues to grow at the rate that we think it's going to grow, right? And I want to be very clear, this is more financial education. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you to go out and buy Bitcoin today. What I am telling you, though, is if you start looking at these numbers, it is fun to look at and say, wow, this could potentially become something impressive over time, right? So jumping into it, I want to kind of break down this sheet for you so you guys understand what you're looking at. So the first thing is here, we're going to look at weekly investments, right? That weekly investment, we multiply it by 52 weeks of the year to get the yearly investment. So then if you see these numbers, that's what that is. So if I change this to $100, you're going to see that my yearly investment turns into $5,200, right? 52 weeks in a year, $100 a week. That's $5,200 as a yearly investment into Bitcoin, okay? And then we've got here the timeline in years. So right now I have it at 10 years. Let's say I have $100 a week that I'm putting in every single week, every year, right? So I'm putting in $5,200 a year at 10 years, right? That's a total Bitcoin investment of $52,000, okay? So then that breaks down that part. Now the next part you'll see here is this average annual growth rate, right? And what you'll see there is that this average annual growth rate, I have it at 15%. Now I want to be really clear. Over the first 10 years of Bitcoin's life, it grew at about 232% CAGR, right? Compounded annual growth rate, okay? The last 5 years of Bitcoin, since 2020, it's grown at about 61%, right? So over the last 50 years, it's grown at about 150% average, okay? We're going to look at a really conservative number, right? Because obviously you can see here that Bitcoin's returns are going down, right, over time. And that's normal because as more money or more capital gets poured into the Bitcoin space, the harder it is for Bitcoin to fluctuate, or the harder it is for it to grow, and vice versa, right? The harder it is for it to crash. So when you have so much money coming into space, it just kind of starts to get heavy and move a little slower. And so you can expect that over the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, that Bitcoin's returns will go down, right? So we're going to look at some really conservative numbers and what, an investment of $100 could look like over time. All right. So usually during my videos, you guys see my numbers. I usually do an average of around $300 a week. But I'm going to show you guys going from $50, and then we'll move it up to $300 so you guys can see what that looks like over time. All right, so if I say I'm going to do $50 a week into Bitcoin, that's a yearly investment of $2,600, okay? So over a time period of 10 years, right, that Bitcoin investment appreciation will be $105,000. So basically, I'll invest $26,000, and over 10 years, assuming a 15% average annual growth rate. Again, that's extremely conservative, guys. We've looked at the last 5 years was at 61%. The last 15 years has been an average 150%. I am putting here an average annual growth rate over the next 10 years, meaning from 2025 to 2035, of just 15%. This is very, very conservative. Okay. Your $50 weekly over the next 10 years turns into $105,000. That's pretty incredible, okay? But I want to show you guys something that's pretty impressive, right? The compounding, sorry, that keeps coming up, and that's from an old video. The compounding annual growth rate, if I change this to just 20%, let's just say, hey, it's 15% is way too conservative. I think it'll be 20%. Look how that changes. It turns into $160,000. Okay? Just like that. And realistically, in my opinion, over the next 10 years, Bitcoin will probably grow at around 30 to 35%. Okay? From there, after those 10 years, I think it'll drop down into the 25%, 20%, and then into the 15% 30 years from now. But in the next 10 years, I do expect Bitcoin to be at around 30 to 35%. So let's go ahead and put this at 35, and what does that look like? So it's unbelievable. So over the next 10 years, if Bitcoin grows at just at a rate of 35%, which is half of what it's done over the last 5 years, you're looking at $500,000 at $50 a week. So just putting away $50 a week, which we all spend $50 a week on dumb things. I do it all the time. Just going to get coffee somewhere, picking up a sandwich, or going to get lunch somewhere. I pick up $50 goes like this when I start to spend it without thinking, right? That happens all the time. So if I said, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to take these $50 a week for the next 10 years. I'm going to make sure that I allocate $50 a week into Bitcoin over the next 10 years. You could be looking at $500,000 sitting in your bank account when it's all said and done, right? But let's say more conservatively, let's look at 30%. It's at $358,000 that you get returned out of a $26,000 investment. Again, guys, that's just at $50 a week. Okay, if we up that and we say we're gonna be aggressive with it and we're gonna do more than that, we're gonna do $100 a week. What does that look like over the next 10 years? At 30%, that's $716,000. Okay, at 30%, if it's 35%, which it very well could be, that's $1 million. At just $100 a week over the next 10 years. That is the potential of Bitcoin, and that's the beauty of compounding too, right? Because you're getting that compound every time you put in $100 and Bitcoin is growing at 35% year over year. Your money is growing at that rate, compounded on what you've already put in, right? So it's unbelievable what you can do with just some discipline and consistency, putting in $100 a week. Okay, you've got to keep that in mind. And if we pull this back to the 15%, obviously that goes down significantly. But again, I don't expect this to be at 15%. I do expect it to be at 15% on average, let's say 30 years from now. So let's say we change that to 30 years and you say for the next 30 years, I'm going to commit to $100 a week into Bitcoin. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's what you could be looking at. So your $100 turns into potentially $10 million, right, over the next 30 years. So that's the beauty of Bitcoin and its rate of return. It's just growing so much faster than anything else, right? Even if we drop this down to 10%, I'm curious to see what that would look like. You're looking at $2 million, right? This is what the stock market does, right? It does about 10 to 12% over 30 years. So that's why people say, well, if you just invest $100 into Bitcoin, $100 into the stock market every single week over 30 years, you'll be a millionaire. You'll retire. This is Dave Ramsey's his spiel, right? But if you put your money towards something that runs at a much faster rate, you could be doing much more, right? And again, that's just going to 15%. That's the compounding rate. The compounding rate of 15% year over year on average over the next 30 years turns into 10 million rather than the 2. right? And that's the thing with Bitcoin, is that because it's the fastest horse in the race, it's more interesting to put your money towards this, because what you could actually get as a return. So it's really, really impressive, Bitcoin's potential, right, over the next 30 years. And again, I do think over the next 10 years, we are going to see somewhat of an explosion of Bitcoin. You're already seeing the US dollar dwindling. People are looking for other safe haven assets. The housing market is out of reach, at least in the US, for normal Americans, people my age, millennials, and people younger. We can't get into the housing market even if we wanted to, right? The down payment investment is so high. The insurance is so high. The taxes are so high that even getting into real estate, it just seems like a pipe dream, right? So what can you get into? Well, you don't need $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to buy Bitcoin. You can invest $50 today. You can invest $100 today, right? And just start building wealth over time. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. So guys, I wanted to jump on here and show you this so you guys can see what that looks like. And again, if you did more, if you did $200, let's just do this just to do it. I mean, it just gets out of control, right? Over 30 years. But again, you've got to be able to stomach the volatility, be okay with the uncertainty of it, and be able to work through that part, right? That's why a lot of people say, well, you know, the people that bought in the first 10 years that was making 232% CAGR, you know, year over year, they got lucky, right? Or, oh man, you were lucky you bought it in 2013. Well, they had to go through a lot of fear and uncertainty, holding on to something that was growing at an average of 232%. It is terrifying when you don't know what could happen to Bitcoin. Is it even going to work? Are people even going to accept it? Is it really what I think it is? Could I be wrong, right? These are all thoughts that we all have. I have them all the time. Could I be wrong? I mean, yeah, potentially. But the more this space grows, the more decentralized the network becomes, the more inevitable it is that we're going to move into a more digital age. We're already seeing it with artificial intelligence. We're already moving towards a more digital world. Why wouldn't we move towards a more digital money, right? You're also seeing a lot of these countries are starting to buy into gold and Bitcoin. Russia just came out recently. I think I just saw it today with news saying that gold and cryptocurrencies are going to be the safe haven assets. So there has been some uncertainty removed from Bitcoin already. So that's important to think about too, right? So again, when you're thinking about, hey, this week, what am I going to do? Am I going to go get lunch somewhere or whatever? Think about what you could do with just putting in $100 a week into Bitcoin for the next 30 years, right? You know, over the next 10 years, with what we expect it to do, let's call it 30%. You know, if you're 25 at 35, you could be sitting pretty, right? If you're 30 at 40, you can be possibly retired. You know, if you put 200, you'd definitely be retired. So, I wanted to jump on and show you guys this, and this is why I do the weekly videos of investing in a Bitcoin and DCAing and putting in the strategy into Bitcoin, DCAing, because over time, guys, and I've experienced it myself, over time, Bitcoin does wonders to your wealth. Everything gets cheaper with Bitcoin. All right, guys, I'll leave you with that. I'll be trying to post a video, a couple videos a week, just more educational stuff, and then we'll keep doing the weekly DCA videos just to keep that going and getting that community built out. But if you like these educational videos, you like what I'm doing on this channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm. It helps me get out there. I'm trying to just educate as many people on Bitcoin as I possibly can. because I know what it can do to help people, to support people, especially people of my generation that want to buy homes, want to start a family, and just feel like they're stuck. Even though they're making good salary and they're making all right wages, they just feel stuck. It's because the money, the dollar is dying. And so you've got to find a way to build your wealth outside of the dollar. And the best and the fastest horse that I've been able to find is Bitcoin. And so I've experienced what it can do, and I'm hoping that more and more people can experience that as well. So if you like what I'm doing, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, comment below if you agree with this take. If you disagree with it, I'm all ears. I'm open to conversation and debating here online. All right, guys, have a good one.